In this chapter, we're going to talk about savings, investment, and the financial system. And it's pretty easy to motivate this type of a chapter. Imagine if you wanted to start a cafe. There are some things you're going to need to start a cafe. Just like that economics graduate who owns a cafe in the HSS building, you could also do that. But how do you go about it? You have some kind of costs that you would have to incur to set up your business. This could involve perhaps buying a coffee machine. It could involve buying raw materials every day, like different types of milk. You would need a cash register. You would need other types of raw materials like bread, etc. Okay, but all of these are either inputs in your business or is a type of investment that you will use to produce and sell your services. But the big question is, well, how do you come up with the funds to start your business? Okay, perhaps you have some savings from before, and that could go into this business. Or sometimes, like most entrepreneurs face this. If you're an entrepreneur, you may not have enough money to start your own business, but you may need to finance or borrow from other sources. So there are various ways you could finance your business. You could borrow the money perhaps from a bank, or you could borrow it from a friend or a relative. In each case, you would have to promise not only to return the money to whoever you borrow from at a later date, but you would also pay the lender some sort of interest for the use of that money. Or if they're nice to you, maybe they don't charge you interests. Or they may need some kind of other promise, like if you made a profit, they may need some kind of commission or some kind of a share of your future profits. Whatever might happen, you have to, in your investment, you have to give back to whoever you're borrowing from. Okay, so really, when you take this to the macro economy, we can think about a financial system that helps this sort of a process. So a financial system is a group of institutions that helps match the saving of one person with the investment of another. So if you're a saver, you're spending less than you're earning. And if you are a borrower, then you are spending more than you are earning. And the idea of a financial system is to connect these two guys. So let's take a look at the types of financial institutions that exist. There are three types of financial institutions that we're going to talk about. The first group is called financial markets. Okay, so that's number one. The second type are financial intermediaries. And the third type are other financial institutions. So let's think about what features distinguish these different types of financial institutions. So if you want to think about financial markets, these are institutions, these are financial institutions. So these are financial institutions through which savers directly provide funds to borrowers. The word directly is important here because there is no intermediary that exists between savers and borrowers. So savers have some excess cash, excess money, or excess funds, and they're able to provide this to borrowers in a direct way. There are a couple of examples of financial markets, including the bond market. If we engage in the bond market, that's usually called debt financing. And another type of market that you're very familiar with is, so this is number one. Number two is called the stock market. And if you were to engage in the stock market or the share market, this would be called equity financing. We'll learn more about what each of these markets does. Okay, so this is the first type of financial institution that we're going to learn about. The second group are financial intermediaries, and these are institutions through which savers indirectly provide funds to borrowers, right? So you have sort of the same definition apply. The only difference is that you have an intermediary that will handle these transactions of funds from savers to borrowers. Okay, so the examples in this case include banks. All right, so if you needed more money, like you typically have a credit card and you are swiping your credit card somewhere, you are essentially borrowing from the bank, and then at the end of the month, hopefully you pay that back. Okay, so banks would include all types of commercial banks or other types of lending facilities. Okay, now that's one. And the second type is a mutual fund. Once we've learned about the bond market and the stock market, we would be able to understand what mutual funds are. So these are some of the differences between financial markets and financial intermediaries. And then any financial institution that does not fall into the first two categories is put into other financial institutions.